Hello and welcome to my forest of discontent. For those of you who are regulars to the channel, you'll know that I often come to this forest to complain. But today I've just come for a gentle scroll? I think I need to go analog more than ever. A gentle stroll through the forest to answer some of your questions. I've got lots of big videos in the works. Me and Craig have just finished, I think, what is the decorating task of our lives, decorating our hall, stairs and landing, which I did vlog the whole process of, but TLDR, don't do it. Don't redecorate your home. Don't go out in harsh weather.
Don't make unnecessary journeys.
It absolutely wasn't a good trade for my physical, mental and spiritual well-being. I had a bad week. We both had a bad week doing that, but lots of bigger videos in the works. I just thought I would have a little week to answer some of your questions as you send them to me a lot, and I try and answer as many as possible, but this is a nice chance to just get a lot of them out of the way and hopefully have a nice little walk in nature and stroll instead of scroll. Am I right? So here we go. First question. Stirring the pot already. A book non-recommendation, something you hated, because when I hate a book, I need to tell people. Do you know what? When I hate a book, I need to tell people too, and I do tell people in my real life, but I don't always put that on the internet, just because I want to be really sure that I don't like something before I say it. Do you know what I mean? But one book, sorry, I just thought that tree was a man. Just standing still staring at me. It's fine, I'm fine. Too many true crime documentaries for me. Yeah, one book that I would genuinely think I should just warn you off, because it's a book that I already recommended on the channel and I want to just responsibly flag that I'm not sure if you should pick it up, is Ask Me How It Works, which was on the long list for the non-fiction women's prize, and I talked about how excited I was to read it. It's about having an open marriage and being polyamorous and the experience of that, and that's something that I have read a little bit about and heard a little bit about and have heard in person from people about, but was excited to learn more about. However, the little that I do know about the polyamorous community and the people who are in open relationships, I just don't think that this would be the book that they would want to represent their experience. For starters, it starts off with her asking to be in an open marriage and her husband explicitly saying that he doesn't want that and he doesn't feel comfortable, and then she essentially consciously chooses to go off and cheat on him with lots of people, but also in a really sustained way, like emotionally as well as physically, with consistent partners that she's also forming relationships with without telling him, which I was just like, I kept reading because I thought there was going to be some kind of regret expressed there, or like a kind of like, I don't really know what I was thinking. I really need to just reassess my whole life and like what I'm doing. But I got to like 60% through the book and she hadn't done that. And she'd kind of gone for 3 therapy sessions and made sure that the therapist also realized that it was kind of his fault, which I just thought is not how the people that I know who are in polyamorous relationships would act or recommend that other people act. And there were just some really unaddressed instances of domestic violence that were treated as non-serious, and I was waiting for them to be treated as serious, and they just never were up until the point that I read. But I think if you're not addressing that 60% into the book, I'm not sure if it's a really responsible way of... Anyway, I just felt like while the writing was really good, and I don't know everything about this person's story, the filtered narrative that is presented in the book is not the best one, and I don't think it was like very rigorously thought through or edited, to be honest, because I think that this is something that should have been picked up in editorial or something, I don't know. But anyway, that's the one book that I would, when you asked me this question, I thought of, because I was like, because I have already mentioned and cited that book, yeah, they're my thoughts. Anyway, having a great time with the rest of the non-fiction long list. To Exist As I Am, The Art Cure, Don't Let It Break You, Honey, so good. I'll be updating you more on my thoughts on more women's prize books as I get through them, but just a little sneaky peek, that's what I think. And if you want more information on how I'm feeling about the books, I am documenting my in-depth feelings about all of the women's prize books that I'm reading on my podcast, the Gumption Club podcast, which is on my Patreon. So if you're really wanting hours and hours of me spilling my guts about it, then you can listen to that there. How to navigate close friends having babies when you are child-free, possibly forever. Oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this. But do you know what my most recent thought about it was? For context about my experience with this, my oldest best friend got pregnant when we were 15. At this point, I hadn't even kissed a boy. So I'm not even sure how that happened, but she got pregnant and had a baby when we were 16. Yeah, she must have had the baby when we were 16. And then I had a very Christian upbringing. So a lot of my close friends got married in their early, at like 21, 22, had babies when they were 23, 24. And then now another wave of my friends, now I'm 35, are having children. So a lot of my friends' children are kind of 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. And then some of them are at university. Wild. Meanwhile, here I am sitting on the sofa humming show tunes and knitting in primary colours. But anyway, I think that this is a skill that people are worried that they won't have, which is being friends with somebody when their life changes and it'll be like something really new and different that they have to adapt to. But I actually think that you have already done this several times in your life and you already have this skill. That is because I genuinely don't believe that the experience of somebody having a baby who is your close friend is that different. It's different, but it's not that different to when your close friend gets a partner that they really are into and they kind of disappear off the face of the earth for a few months because they're just so in love. They like forget they have phones and they don't have any plans and they're just like Pritt sticking to this other person. And then once they come out of that, you have to adjust to this other random person being in your life that you don't know. They're absolutely obsessed with, and now they have to come to all your dinners and your parties, and whenever you want to go around their house and sit on their sofa, this random other person is also there. And sometimes you love them too and they're amazing, and sometimes you're just like, well, we're just gonna have to work it out because we both mutually love this person, so between us we're just gonna have to get on. And mainly my friends' children are in the category of, oh my god, I can see why you like them, I love them too, we can all hang out as a trio and it's gonna be great. But there is that fear that they're in the other category, but that also doesn't mean it's the end of the world, because I know that you have worked through that, where you've had a friend who's had a partner who's a bit like, not sure about them, but we're just gonna pull up our sleeves and carry on. So I think like just accepting that they will have that period where they're kind of absorbed in their own little bubble, and that's okay. And then just knowing that maybe for a few years even their lives are going to be completely different, but they do come out of that. And also I think, if I'm really dishing the tea here, I think that I'm the person that my child, with my with child, what's the opposite of child free? With child? Parent, that's the word. My parental friends come to have a bit of fun and like go away with, because if you're a parent and you have friends that are parents, aligning your schedules and all of your partner's schedules, kind of a nightmare. Actually, somebody easier to hang out with is a bimbo like me who has a very flexible schedule, doesn't have any children to worry about, and is willing to travel long distances to see them. And I think a lot of people do miss their lives outside of talking about children. Like, there's lots of opportunities for you to find people who also want to talk about your kids, but a lot of the time I'm hearing that people don't always want that, and then who are they gonna come crawling back to? You. So it's fine. I think you've got to take it with a little bit of humor and make sure for yourself that you also do have some child-free friends, because you're just like they deserve mum friends or parental friends, you also deserve somebody who's having a similar life experience to you, and that's fine, and that doesn't compromise your friendship with them. It's just a little bolt-on, add-on extra that I think like you're allowed to talk about your needs as much as they're allowed to talk about their needs. But for example, one of my best friends in the whole world, who's basically my sister, has a 3-year-old, and one of the only times that we can talk is when she is walking to work, very specifically on a Tuesday morning between 7:30 and 8 a.m. I may not be up at that time naturally on other days, depending, but on a Tuesday I'll always make sure that I am the fuck up and we have that half an hour conversation almost every single week, because I know that that's what it's going to take to keep our friendship fizzy and warm and close, and that everybody has different needs in friendships. I probably have some needs in friendships that other people have to meet, and I never want to resent people for having needs in friendships that need to be a bit more flexible. And in turn, my child-free friends make sure that we have time when it's just us, and in fact it's a great excuse for them to give their child to the other parent and be like, you can parent now because I have to go and spend time with Lena because she deserves some child-free time. Also they do. But honestly, I think that all of my friends' kids are actually like really fun and absolutely hilarious. And I don't see like I'm looking after them. I just seem like I'm hanging out with them. And children respond really well to that. I think there are lots of pluses to having friends who have children, as well as lots of changes, admittedly. But also, have you ever been spotted by a 4-year-old across a platform and them looking visibly like euphorically excited to see you and running towards you, because that's a high like no other? I basically just think this is an opportunity for me to feel like a celebrity. Thank you for going through childbirth for me so that I can feel special. Somebody said, how did your recycled thread patches go? They went really well, actually. They went so well that we've sold out of almost all of them. This is my Positive Panic patches project. They're kind of like scout style badges for climate dares you can dare yourself to do. And we sold out of all of them apart from this purse patch. It's so alone. I've quite a lot of them if you would like them. I've put them on an horrendously low sale. So if you do want one of those, leannorms.com/shop. But yeah, no, they did do really well, and I'm really proud that they sold out, and we're working on what to make next with our little side hustle adventure. It is severely side hustly. I would say you're not going to make a career out of it. It's definitely a labour of love, but we really enjoy it and we ship them all out from our house. What is the lore behind Frog Snog Out? I followed for almost a decade and always wondered. I've been making videos for 17 years, so I forget that some people don't know the lore, and that's on me. But when I finish my videos, I sign off at the end Frog Snog Out, and that is because this channel used to be called Just Kiss My Frog, and it was called Just Kiss My Frog. Are you ready for the big deep reason? Because it was my MSN name. And the deeper reason for why it was my MSN name is because I thought it was a cheeky thing on like just kiss my ass, but it's like just kiss my frog, because when you kiss a frog it might become a prince, and that is the whole shebang. That's the whole thing. I made it up when I was like 15, so I neither defend nor deny it, but that is what it is. And at the end of every video I just started saying Frog Snog Out instead of goodbye, because I felt awkward about saying goodbye, and now it's just a thing that we do here. And I'll be damned if I'm deprived of my traditions. How to break into publishing without having to live and breathe LinkedIn. Now, my getting into publishing knowledge is admittedly outdated. I did work in books for about 10 years, and I did hire people while I was there. I was in hiring positions, but you do need to bear in mind that I started my job in 2012, 2013, and I stopped working officially in publishing in 2020, 2021. So I think most of the things that I would say are probably outdated by now, but something I do think is probably universally useful is that books are things that you do on your own. Like any other kind of love or passion, like it could be done as part of a sports team, or you have a lot of work to show for it, or you have like a certain agility with it that you can like show and measure, and you can love reading your whole life and have no evidence for it because it's something that you do on your own. You're studying books, but you're not really creating anything that you can hand in. So when you come to interview for a job working in books, it's weird not to bring some kind of evidence that you actually give a shit about books. And sometimes you have to reverse engineer that evidence. But I do think it's weird when people turn up to interviews, which happened a lot. And this is why I always say, yeah, there are a lot of people trying to get into publishing, but the standard isn't as high as you might think it is. There's a lot of people turning up to interviews who are just like, yeah, I really like reading. And I'm like, okay, how often do you read? And they didn't really know, or they said, oh, like once a week. And then I'd be like, what's your favourite book? And they'd be like, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And I'd be like, okay, which might be true, but it's just a very, like that is the book that most people in the UK study at school. So maybe don't try for that one. And then I'd say like, what do you do outside? Like, what have you ever volunteered at a book festival? Or have you ever gone on a writing course? Or have you ever attended a local book event? Or can you tell me about your local bookshop? Or what your local library is doing right now? Or who are your favourite people to follow on social media who talk about books? And some people couldn't answer any of those questions. And that's when I think, I'm not sure if you like books. And maybe they did. Maybe they did. Maybe they did care about the industry of books and how people find out about books and how people read books. But I couldn't trust their word alone. I needed some evidence. So make sure that if you already do any of those things, you're bringing them to the forefront of your application. And if you're not doing any of those things, question yourself why, and maybe start doing some of those things. Or if none of those things sound interesting to you, I don't think you would enjoy publishing. And that's my hot take. Anyway, best of luck with it. It's fucking tough out there to get jobs in general. So I wouldn't turn to me as like the ultimate guru of how to get a job in publishing. But I would say that a lot of people I interviewed were lacking those basic replies. So if you can get those replies and get them good and enthusiastic, then you might be on your way. Wondering how you cope with your die alone propaganda as a child-free human? What I would say is, bold of you to assume that I didn't want to die alone. In fact, I look forward to that peace. I don't want somebody else talking in my ear while I'm trying to die here and think about my whole life and summarize it and reflect. So anyway, that's the comedy answer you can give people to realise that maybe it's a bit of a personal question they shouldn't be asking, just like, oh, you ever going to have kids? Or why aren't you drinking? Just like you're never going to get a non-personal answer, and if you don't know somebody that personally, it's just a weird thing to say or ask. But if it is actually somebody who does care about you and you already know asking, for me, I would say there are no guarantees in this life, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life doing something because of a scarcity mindset or a fear of me not getting something out of it at the end, because once those children are out of you, you owe them everything and they don't owe you anything really, apart from growing up to be themselves. And there's no guarantees that those children could even give you that or live long enough to give you that as well, which is dark, but it's like true. And I think that people ask this question haven't thought about any of that. We know from statistics and also just like anecdotal evidence of people talking about it on the internet who work in care homes that people with children aren't necessarily any more or less visited than people without them. And I think that people who ask this question probably have a fundamental insecurity about their ability to build community and meaningful relationships outside of a blood connection, which is like definitely their baggage to deal with and absolutely not yours. But yeah, that's not why you have children. That's actually a really fucked up reason to have children. Really hope that the person asking you that question isn't thinking about having children for that reason alone, because that is not the reason to create life. I feel like I could have ran about that for about 50 minutes, but we simply don't have time. Let's have the next question, shall we? Oh, let's do all the hard questions while we're here, shall we? How do you feel about your creator friends taking shady spons and pushing consumerism? I'm gonna like answer your question with a question. Do all of your friends agree with you? Oh, they do? Oh God, that's not good, is it? I only have friendships with people I adore and think the world of, but that doesn't mean that they are people that think exactly like me. And my opinions have been changing, especially I think the older you get, the longer your friendships have been going on for. Like my opinions have been changing a lot and my friends still like me. So I don't go off people because they don't do exactly what I would do at the pace and the level that I would do it. So I do think that friendship in general, especially if you're thinking about content creators, just be aware that friendship should never be a branding exercise. That's a dystopia I refuse to live in or refuse to act like I'm living in, because I think sometimes if you act like you're living in that dystopia, you bring it around. But also I don't have friends with really extreme views. I think I talk a lot about the Overton window and this kind of like not just talking to the people who are directly opposing you on the opposite side of the spectrum, but the people who are next to you, who are in like to your left and your right of the spectrum. And most of my friends would probably fall somewhere into that Overton window, and mainly just people who maybe don't think that the climate crisis is as urgent as I do. And if our difference in opinion is urgency or the way we fix things or believing that we can fix things, and some people being more pessimistic about whether even trying is worth it, then they're definitely the people I want to keep talking to. That would be very bad for the cause and hypocritical of me if I didn't want to keep talking to those people. But also my whole motivation for talking to those people can't be getting them to think the way I think. My only prerequisite for being friends with somebody is that they listen to my concerns, and I'm just worrying about this stuff a lot. So I do talk to my friends about it because I'm worrying about it, not because I want them to think like me, but because it's something that I am going through. And I also feel a lot of relief when people who don't make the same consumer choices as me or the same like public choices as me come to me and ask me for random bits of advice, or say, oh, do you think I should work with this brand, or what would you do in this situation, or like, here's my public conundrum about what to say on the internet about this thing. And I feel a real sense of relief when people do come to me who are also creators and ask me for my advice, because it means that I haven't been a knob, or haven't been so much of a knob that they don't feel like they can ask me questions or change their minds, or they don't feel like I'm going to tell them off, you know? It's very hard to become more logical in your relationship to consumerism and not seem radical, even though I think consumerism is the radical thing. Like, working with people like Amazon is a radical act. Like, I think that's a wild thing to do, but you seem wild and radical, I'm very aware, by saying that you shouldn't work with people like Amazon. So I have to do what I think is the best thing to do, whilst also trying to not seem like, just because I learned something recently, that I have always known it, or I've always felt like this, or I've always realised it and let it sink in properly. Like, I'm so imperfect that I literally wrote a whole book about how imperfect I am at it, and how half-assed I am at a lot of my ethics, and why I think letting people be half-assed about their ethics is the only way we're going to turn this ship fast enough. So yeah, friendship is not a branding exercise. It's fine. How do you find a route to retrain into something good for the world when you've been corporate forever? I do have a chapter called Half-Assed Careers in my book where I talk a little bit more about this, but something that I do mention in there, that I'll mention here as well, is that there's this company called 80,000 Hours who have loads of free resources and consultation slots where they're just like helping you work out how you can make the biggest difference with the hours that you have in your life, because assumedly, I think it's like 80,000 hours you're going to be working in your life. So that if you can come to them with all of your skills and your background and your interests, and they can help you work out how most effectively to use your time. And that isn't necessarily always going and working for a charity, or like giving everything up and living off grid. Sometimes it's like, you should probably go and work for that bank and persuade them to do this or something like that. So I think like we need people on the inside in the corporate world quite desperately, actually. So if you can like stomach it, and you cannot go stark raving fucking bonkers being there, and parts of it you really enjoy, please stay there and change it, or at least disrupt it in some way. Because if the people who still give a shit all quit, they're going to be replaced by people who don't give a shit at all. So yeah, that's my short answer, but my long answer is in this book. Anyway, that is all from me. I hope that you had a nice calming time. I guarantee you that next time you see me in this forest, I will be pissed off again. There are lots of things to be pissed off about, so I'm not worried about that. But I thought you might enjoy a little walk in the forest where I'm not pissed off, because once you see that house decorating video, you'll see that Grumpy Lena is back. So I just wanted to remind you that sometimes I'm cheerful, so that when you see that video, you don't hate me. Thank you so much for watching. And now we all understand the in-joke, frog snog out.